What would happen if we all tried to be like Santa and learned to give, as only he can give, of ourselves, our talents, our love, and our hearts? Maybe if we could all learn Santa's beautiful lesson, maybe there would finally be peace on earth and goodwill toward man.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6 months of Christmas, and welcome to an orange studio for those of you guys who are watching us on YouTube, because today's a bit of a different show. We are, of course, still covering Christmas. We're always covering Christmas, but as you can hear in the background, today we have a bit of a spooktacular twist, as we will be covering the history of Halloween costumes through the decades here on the 6 months of Christmas show. As those of you listening and watching can tell, I do not have the deep, booming voice of my handsome co-conspirator, Kevin Undergaro. You're stuck with me, unfortunately, today. Kevin is handling some business that is very important, but he will be back next week, and everything's fine, but I'm taking the reins today. Luckily, I'm not alone, though. I'm joined by Ryan Nilsson in the booth.
You're never alone, Jeff. You have tons of friends, and we're all here for you, man. But
Thank you.
so excited to be getting in the holiday spirit with you. No one better to talk about Halloween, of all things, with in this nightmare before Christmas.
Yes.
But this won't be a nightmare. This will be a dream come true. I think we have an awesome show planned for everyone.
We do have an awesome show planned, and for those of you guys who are Christmas purists and maybe feeling reticent about the fact that we are doing some Halloween programming today, never fear, because we are going to be tying every Halloween segment still back to Christmas, back to the holidays, and Halloween is an essential and important part of Americana holiday season, and really closely relates to an important component of Christmas, which is this. To Kevin Undergaro, who is, of course, the brainchild behind everything we're doing here, Halloween is the first, really gives you permission to start putting up Christmas decorations. Ryan, how do you feel about the idea that Halloween is sort of the only benchmark that you have to pass until Christmas decorations are appropriate?
It's the hard benchmark to pass. I think it's now socially acceptable in our society to put up that tree, and now we're getting into the holiday spirit. We're hitting Halloween. Thanksgiving's right around the corner. Everything from there and there on we're in this time of the year. It's
Definitely.
The holiday season.
Speaking of the holiday season, as I mentioned, this is a bit of a different show, but we, of course, always maintain the spirit of our show. And we have a two-part mission here on Christmas. I want to say Christmas starts in August, but it is, in fact, the 6 months of Christmas.
6 months.
Still getting used to that name change. But we do have a two-part mission on this show, as we mention every week. One is to extend the spirit of the holiday season beyond the month of September. And by the spirit of the holiday season, we mean that kind of energy and that human spirit that just makes everyone a little better. You know, people are more willing to give, whether that be their time, their talents, or even just a hug to their neighbor. And the second component of our mission is to gear up for Christmas and the holiday season. And that's what we will be doing today with our show. We will be going through the history of Halloween costumes, covering decades and covering individual years. It's a really fun show. I had a ton of fun prepping and researching for this show. A lot of pop culture today, but a lot of really interesting history dating back to the Middle Ages, even talking about Christmas connections to Halloween. So Kevin was talking to me before the show, and for him, the first kind of year that he gave himself permission to put up the Christmas tree after Halloween was in 2007, 2008, at the peak of the financial recession. And he was, had a great Halloween and thought, this was such a joyous time and season, and why don't we just immediately dive into the next thing? Which is, of course, Christmas. Let's put up that tree. So I'm all about the November 1 holiday decoration times, and we will have some amazing Christmas updates later in the show. Ryan mentioned The Nightmare Before Christmas, and Ryan, I have some very exciting development news around The Nightmare Before Christmas as a property.
Really?
Yes. So perfect time for this news to break, especially given the fact that this is our Halloween show. Plus, we're halfway through October. It really is time for us to start talking about All Hallows Eve.
It definitely is. And I mean, when you talk about that movie for a second, I think a lot of the themes in that movie nail exactly what Kevin wrote and what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And that, whether it's Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, or just the holiday in general, the point of a holiday is it's that time off, but it's also a celebration. It's not a break, it's a celebration. And I think that's what we're doing now, where it's an excuse without really being an excuse. It's just a happy occasion, and
Yeah.
it can really lift everyone's spirits.
Beautifully said. Well, with that being said, I want to quickly thank you guys for tuning in. This is the AfterBuzz Christmas 24/7 network, and very excitingly, we are no longer the only show on this network, Ryan.
I know.
We launched another show with Mr. Christmas himself, the super organizer James Lott Jr. And James Lott Jr., amazing host, wonderful person, one of the best people I know. He is a organizing genius. Professionally, truly, he is an organizer. That's what he does. Organizes your life and organizes your heart. And he is doing a Christmas-themed organizational show. It's really worth checking out on this channel. And the reason I say that is because we would ask you guys to please subscribe to this channel. We're going to be continuing to launch Christmas shows. We've had a lot of fun development meetings around the network and just a lot of good stuff. One last thing we ask is that you would hop on Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating and review. We've been checking. They're slowly coming in. And once we get those reviews, I will read them on air. Ryan, with that, I want to dive into some history of Halloween.
Brilliant.
What do you know about the history of Halloween, Ryan, before we dive in?
Before we dive in, history of Halloween. Let's see. I know that there's the Day of the Dead, obviously, which is a more Spanish holiday. In what's it? Dios los Muertos.
Dios de los Muertos.
Dios de los Muertos, and I know that's a way more. That is an actual celebration of those who have passed on. It's not so much mourning, but it's more just celebrating like the lives a lot of people led. And I think that that theme's even highlighted in the movie. You know, I'm the movie guy. I have to relate everything to movies. In Coco, a Pixar film, that's all about the Day of the Dead. So that's what I think the origin comes from what I've heard. And I also know a weird fact that wasn't there a daredevil magician who also passed away on Halloween? I'm forgetting his name, but he always got himself out of tricky situations. To be honest, that's really all I know, Jeff. That you know, people like candy and hiding.
Well, that's all good. We're going to talk about specifically sort of the costuming, trick-or-treating part of Halloween. So, it's interestingly, Dios de los Muertos is sort of unrelated to Halloween. It is a beautiful holiday. I'm glad you mentioned Coco. That's a really wonderful film. I think it does promote the same kind of spirit that we're pushing on this film if you haven't seen Coco. But today, in terms of the history I'll be giving you, it's much more Anglo-Saxon, much more sort of British Isles. We're talking more Middle Ages, Celtic, etc. So, I'm going to get into it right now. In terms of the costuming components of Halloween, there are sort of two theorized origins around this. The first one I'm going to talk about has to do with Samhain, which is sort of a Celtic, old Middle Ages sort of pagan theory is not the right word, but superstitious sort of spiritual happening where at certain times of the year around Halloween, sort of the pagan evil spirits would come out at night. So people would dress up as a way to trick those spirits into thinking that we were one of them. So if I dress up like a demon on the night of Samhain, and I'm not sure I'm saying that exactly right, it's Samohin.
Samhain.
Yeah. If I'm dressed up like one of them, I can trick them into thinking I'm one of them.
Right.
Which is interesting. So that kind of keeps you safe. And that's the whole trick or treat component, some people think. But the more sort of universally agreed upon origin for Halloween costuming dates back to a middle-aged term called mumming. Have you heard of mumming?
I've not heard of mumming.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into it right now. Mumming spread from the British Isles to a number of former British colonies. It's basically the play tradition of dressing up. It kind of has the same sort of feeling and themes around Shakespearean cosplay and dressing up, but mumming specifically had to do with wearing face-obscuring hats or other kinds of headgear, and sometimes painted faces or blackened faces, interestingly. And generally it's performed seasonally around Christmas, there's a Christmas reference, or Easter, or on Plough Monday, sometimes on Halloween or All Souls Day, often with the collection of money as the idea, but people would just show up at houses in their mumming costumes and put on little shows and put on little entertainments, kind of by surprise. It's very, very interesting. And actually, in 1418, a law was passed forbidding, quote, mumming, plays, interludes, or any other kinds of disguising with feigned beard, painted visors, deformed or colored visages in any way, upon pain of imprisonment. But many mummers would not even disguise their faces. It's very interesting. Related to mumming, there's also this thing called guising, and this was more common in Ireland. But in guising, a man dressed as a lairbán I don't know if I said that very well, but if you clip that out, you can make fun of me a lot. Which was, this pushed youths from house to house reciting verses, some of which had pagan overtones in exchange for food. If the household donated food, it could expect a good fortune, but if they refused to, it would bring misfortune. In Scotland, youths went from house to house with painted masks, blackened faces, and they would recite rhymes or threaten to commit mischief if they were not welcomed. In parts of Wales, peasant men went from house to house dressed as fearsome beings called Gwarshad and presented themselves as Shandon de Mur, which was representatives of the dead. That's my attempt to do Gaelic. In Western Ireland, in Western England, mostly in the countries bordering Wales, souling was common. And according to 19th century English writer, one 19th century English writer, parties of children dressed up in fantastic costumes went around from farmhouses to cottages singing songs, begging for cakes called soul cakes, apples, money, or anything that goodwives would bring them. So this mumming, guising, and souling tradition wasn't specifically focused on Halloween, which is part of the way that this is all tied to sort of just the festivities around the holidays, the idea of festivals, gatherings, family traditions, and holidays in general.
Fascinating. I think it's a lot of terminology I heard whenever I took theater classes, with guising, mumming, and just other. It's speak for dressing up and, in a way, pretending to be something else.
Interesting. So in terms of specifically connected to Halloween, guising at Halloween in Scotland is recorded around 1895, so just near the turn of the century, where masqueraders in disguise carrying lanterns made out of scooped turnips would visit homes to be rewarded with cakes, fruit, and money. So Ryan, when you hear about lanterns inside of scooped out, hollowed out turnips, what do you think?
Jack-o'-lanterns?
Totally think of jack-o'-lanterns, which I love. The practice of guising at Halloween in North America is first recorded in 1911, where a newspaper in Kingston, Ontario reported children going around guising around the neighborhood. So it's interesting. When I was doing this research, I was actually surprised to learn I would have expected this type of sort of Halloween trick-or-treating tradition to have started a little earlier. You know, it didn't really, trick-or-treating in this capacity didn't start until the 20th century.
In this capacity, it doesn't necessarily surprise me. I feel like I just would have heard about it a little more in history books for that sense of the type of trick-or-treating. But just the idea that guising, it all relates back to how we celebrate it now with jack-o'-lanterns.
Yeah. In
a similar way to a lot of the ways, for Christmas with stories and certain traditions we have now, like even watching these old TV specials and the way that they related then. It's really quite clever, and I like it a lot.
I love it too. And interestingly, pretty much trick-or-treating didn't really come until the 1940s, that idea. But once the 1940s hit, that's when sort of the candy component of trick-or-treating came, stalled only by World War II during the sugar rations. But up until the late 40s, trick-or-treating as we know it today has pretty much been the Halloween tradition of America.
Nice.
Okay, what I'm going to do now,
yes,
before we get into Halloween costumes by the decades, I want to ask you, Ryan, when you think of Halloween and you think of trick-or-treating and costuming, specifically, I'd love to hear like sort of the family experience around that for you, because I feel like the big tie to a Christmas spirit feeling is sort of how we reminisce and think about nostalgically the family components of Halloween.
Definitely. I can tell you right away. First off, my dad's side of the family, cousins, their birthday was on Halloween. And so my cousin Jack, we would always go to my cousin's house, celebrate their birthday, and we would trick-or-treat around their neighborhood. And they had a massive neighborhood, just
big houses,
suburban area where they're just cookie cutter houses,
king-size candy bars.
We knew after years going on, like, that's the house you want to go to. Yep. And the time of day to go. Really popular neighborhood too, like the local high school. That's where everyone lived. Oh. And so it'd be my older cousin's high school. And we just had a blast every year going out. Usually my older cousin would kind of go out with her friends, and we would go out with the younger cousin whose birthday it was. But it was interesting. It was a rival high school to my high school.
Oh, controversial.
Exactly. Yeah, a little controversy. Maybe you'd run into a few people who maybe I played against in basketball or cross country that year. So it'd just be kind of funny seeing what each person's dressed up as. And then later in the year when you play them, you're like, oh, I saw you at Halloween. So it'd just be like weird stuff like that. But every year we'd go. and it would always be the same thing. We wouldn't go already dressed up. We'd bring our costumes with us, dress up there, be a big unveiling, almost like you're opening a Christmas present. You're like, what are they dressed up as this year? How does it look? And then also just answering the door for other people that are trick-or-treating in the neighborhood. And are you going to be the person who gives the candy to them, or is my brother or my parents? Like, who's going to do it? We trade off. So it was just a really fun time hanging with the family and then going and eating candy. And whenever we'd come back, the parents would be really on top of how much candy we're consuming.
Yep.
Like, you can only have a few, or like a quarter of it. So you have to save it for the weekend, and usually we'd eat it all by the end of the night.
I love it.
How about you?
Yeah, we would do Halloween parties as well. So it was more or less family, but more sort of the family of my parents' friends. They had a lot of really wonderful friendships through church and other, local community activities with kids who were my age. So we have these fun videos of, the adults all hanging out, drinking what we thought was just apple cider, but was probably spiked, right? Because this is a chance for adults to have some fun during the week.
Exactly.
And all the kids dressed up, bobbing for apples, carving pumpkins. These are the family traditions that do sort of show you that spirit to the holidays connection that you can get with Christmas as well.
Right.
It's a really special time. And I know you're from the Northeast.
Yes, Delaware.
And I'm from Ohio. And as much as we love Los Angeles here in sunny Hollywood, there's something about crisp fall weather, changing leaves, and hay bales that you just don't really get in this part of town.
You never get it. And I think that's even a thing for cities as well.
Yeah.
Because I did go to school in Philly, and Halloween came and went.
Yeah.
You go to some parties, maybe a few bars, but not the same as being in a more rural area.
Just like the magic of like a cloudy night with scarecrows that are out and hay bales and apple crisp and apple cider.
It's
and
cold too.
It's kind of chilly. You put on a sweater and a jacket and you walk to school in the cloudy weather, and that time just can't really be captured anywhere but in, the northern parts of the country. So
without a doubt, even dressing up to school was a thing.
Yeah.
Like, what grade was it acceptable to keep dressing up, or were you just going to be the person who's going to own it each year and dress up? Because if I remember, there was just like maybe that first year of high school, no one was quite sure, and everyone didn't dress up, and then you realize the upperclassmen are, and
totally.
Like, it's okay.
Well, I'm going to get specifically into your favorite costumes that you've worn, Ryan, later in the show. But as we sort of talk about the fun party traditions and nostalgic holiday components of Halloween, I'm thinking that's next week. I'm thinking we save party ideas, family ideas, traditions for next week, but we're focusing on costumes today. I just thought that'd be a little nice aside for us.
Deal.
Either way, I pulled up some articles, Ryan. I'm going to start with actually in honor of our friend Megan Murphy, friend of the show, executive editor of Good Housekeeping. We're going to start with Good Housekeeping, and I'm going to kind of go by decades. So as I mentioned, 1890s is really the start of the trick-or-treating costuming part of Halloween. And in this photo, what you'll see in the 1890s was costumes were generally just children dressing up as professionals, which still happens, right? I was a firefighter. I was a cop, sort of that blue collar tradition of Halloween dressing up. But in 1890, we see a photo, even before this one, Ryan. This is the 1900s. We're going to go back a little bit. Quirky Originals is how Good Housekeeping build this, but you'll see little kids dressed as cowboys, robber barons, sort of Rockefeller, Carnegie-esque millionaires. This was sort of the time to quirkily dress up as big professions. So that was sort of the theme up until the 1910s. And in the early 1910s, that's when sort of the spooky elements of Halloween started. So you'll think typical ghosts. You'll think... So Ryan's pulling up this Quirky Originals photo now, but we're going to fast forward a little bit to that 1910s photo where you'll see sort of spookier photos. You'll see pumpkins. You'll see... what else do we got? Yeah, like look at this. This is a little kid. That's an unsettling photo, if you ask me.
That's pretty unsettling.
I want you to even go forward one more, Ryan, so the listeners can see. Yeah, you'll see witches in this photo, the kind of witchy elements, but still primarily homemade costumes. So we're thinking spooky homemade costumes. The 1920s were interesting because this is when teenagers started to wreak havoc around the neighborhood. Pranking. This was sort of the time of teenagers. Luxury time was more common in the States because there was just more time. Cars were starting to develop, so work commutes looked different. So teenagers started having free time. So that's when trick-or-treating started to really develop because parents needed to give their kids something to do. So this is when you'll start to see more teenage costumes. Trick-or-treating is starting, but still no real box costumes because we're in the Great Depression. This is fun. And if you see this photo here, we actually have a homemade flapper costume, which is pretty fun. I'm actually going to have you switch articles now, Ryan, to I also pulled something from Cosmopolitan, I believe.
Copy that.
And the 1930s is interesting because that's the first time we really start to see pop culture references. So I think if you go forward one more photo, Ryan, you'll see we have actually a Minnie Mouse. Which is really interesting. So TV, film, mass media, Hollywood is all starting to develop in the 20s and 30s, and naturally, people respond. So you'll see this really adorable photo of a little girl. Black and white photo, really old-timey, but the modern component of this is that Minnie Mouse head. Pretty interesting. Let's talk about the 50s now, because this is really the development of like consumer culture Halloween. So this is when we start to get box costumes. This is when we even start to see some superheroes.
Yeah.
Even if you go forward one more, Ryan, I think you'll see a pop culture reference. We should have a Sputnik photo. So This is the 50s. This woman is dressed up as the satellite Sputnik. I identify with her on a sort of visceral level because I love like a event-based pop culture reference. Hilarious. The 60s were kind of fun because we start to see more like presidential references. The 60s would have been, well, not quite. I was going to say Nixon, but that's more the 70s. But more masks, a lot more masks. We have more trick-or-treat pumpkins. Sort of the consumerization of Halloween starts to really develop. But the 70s are when I start to recognize iconic costumes. First of all, we have Kiss, of course. Mm-hmm. This is when bands and music and celebrity really start to take hold. And go forward one more. Ryan, you'll love that one.
Star Wars.
Ryan is probably the biggest Star Wars fan in the building right now.
Big time.
And then
there's Nixon.
How iconic is that?
Wow.
For those listeners, some of you might have even lived through it. That rubber mask Nixon is just such an iconic Halloween look. But let's keep going because the 80s, well, and one last thing in the 70s. This is the birth of sexy costuming. So, why be Marilyn Monroe when you could be a very, very sexy Marilyn Monroe? Halloween, to many, has kind of devolved into a hedonistic display of our bodies. Just, I don't know where everyone necessarily lands there, but the 70s is really when this tradition began. So, very interesting.
Here we are in the 80s.
And quickly, I brought that up because I know Kevin especially wants us to debate on air when we think the birth of Horrorloween culture started. And we're not going to do that without, of course, a female voice in the room. I don't think you guys want to hear two young white dudes in their 20s argue about whether or not it's okay for specific people to dress that way on Halloween. So we're going to wait and get some very intelligently minded women in this room and then have the debate.
Yep.
That'll be a special, so make sure you subscribe to the channel.
Please subscribe.
80s superhero costumes. This is when we really start to see this. We got a Batman, we got a Robin. We're starting to get all of it, which is pretty fun. Ooh, and the Thing. I love that.
Four.
Yes. And of course, Ryan, our movie guy, when you think of directors in the 80s and you think of Halloween-esque things, who do you think of?
I'm thinking Tim Burton.
Tim Burton, but how about John Carpenter, right?
Ooh, yes, of course.
And even Sam Raimi, right? So,
Sam Raimi, Army of Darkness.
Yeah, Evil Dead, Freddy, Jason. This is all happening in the 80s. Slasher movies were born. So you start to see a lot of that, which is really, really important. So that's kind of a history of costumes by the decades. What I want to do now is talk just more general trends in the decades. So jumping back to the 20s, clowns were kind of the big thing, which is really interesting. So with little kids and with teenagers, clowns are what we're sort of looking at. 30s was Minnie and Mickey. So that's really the birth of Disney. 40s was witches. Interestingly, in the 50s, Hawaiian dress was huge. Sort of touristy vacation type of Halloween costumes were huge. 70s was Charlie Brown and the Peanuts, which I love because I'm such a big Charlie Brown fan. 80s, a lot of Elvira and a lot of Hulk Hogan, which I kind of love. 90s, Ryan, you might be able to relate to this.
Okay.
Power Rangers all the way.
Yes, absolutely.
I was
Shout
a
out
Power
to the Power
Ranger.
Rangers.
Yeah.
We had them in studio last week. Check out our Popcorn Talk Network. But yeah, no, I was a Power Ranger too. I think I was Red Ranger because red's my favorite color.
Yes.
Absolutely love it.
The 2000s was a lot of celebrities. That was sort of the birth of the boy band, music, Michael Jackson, Britney Spears, J-Lo, Hannah Montana. Sort of celeb relationship culture was so big in the 20s. That was the birth of Bennifer. So I think a lot of couple costume and like group boy band celebrity costuming was really fun. I did go as a member of NSYNC in the 2000s, which is kind of fun.
It is fun.
And then the 2010s, a lot of Frozen is what we're seeing now.
Really?
So, yeah. All right.
Elsa, Anna, yeah.
So, Ryan, I want your opinion here. I have just a list of the biggest costume by year starting in 1950. As my producer,
Yes.
do you feel that I spend the next 2 minutes going year and costume?
I think that's the way you should do it.
I think that's the way we should do it. And Ryan, if you want to play a timer, we can make this a game.
Let's do
and
this
I'll see
game.
if I can get through all of the costumes by year. And Ryan, what I want you to do is, as you listen, pick out the ones that kind of jump out to you.
Absolutely.
We might even have, it looks like my amazing producer might be pulling up some music.
I am pulling up some music, and we're going to
This
have a
is
timer.
Very exciting. Okay.
So, yeah, you're going to need to run down these within the next 2 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
And just be ready. So we'll begin in 3, 2, 1.
All right, 1950, biggest costume, Norma Desmond, Sunset Boulevard. 1951, Alice of Alice in Wonderland. 1952, the cast of Singing in the Rain. 1953, Peter Pan. 54, Godzilla, interesting. 55, classic James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. 56, The King and I. Would have never thought that one, but very interesting. 1957, Julie Andrews as Cinderella, because that was the live broadcast on CBS. We have Madeline Esther from Vertigo in 58. 59 is Marilyn Monroe. 60, Esther Crane from Marion Crane from Psycho, specifically with the shower. Very interesting. Breakfast at Tiffany's, Audrey Hepburn, iconic in 61. 62, JFK and Jackie O. 63, Lucy from The Lucy Show, not I Love Lucy. That's Lucille Ball, of course.
Wow.
64, Elizabeth Taylor. 65, The Rolling Stones. 66, Star Trek cast. 67, Jeannie from I Dream of Jeannie. 68, interesting, Casper the Friendly Ghost, because the comics were so popular. 69, Elvis. 70, Beatles. 71, Willy Wonka, Gene Wilder's performance specifically. 72, The Godfather. 73, Jan Brady, interesting that one. 74, Daisy Buchanan from The Great Gatsby, that was the Robert Redford one. 75, Jaws, going as the shark, interestingly enough. Wow. 76, Rocky, of course. 77, Princess Leia. 78, Tony Manero from Saturday Night Fever. 79, Superman. 80, Daisy Duke. 81, Indiana Jones. 82, Annie. 83, Madonna, earlier than I would have expected. 84, Ghostbusters. 85, Marty McFly. 86, Gem and the Holograms, kind of fun. 87, RoboCop. 88, Garfield. 89, Batman. 90, Ninja Turtles. 91, Morticia Addams. I think that's the Elvira one.
20 seconds.
92, Catwoman. 93, Dinosaur Jurassic Park. 94, Lion King. 95, Star Trek again. 96, Scream, so iconic. 97, Spice Girls. 98, Lebowski. 99, Tarzan. 2000, Fred Flintstone. 2001, Josie and the Pussycats. 2002, Hermione. 2003, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man. 2004, Jack Sparrow. 05, Grey's Anatomy. 06, V for Vendetta. 07, Hannah Montana. 08, High School Musical. 09, Lady Gaga. 10, that's it.
That's it.
Well, we got up to 2010.
2010. And what year did we start?
50.
Wow.
So I got through 60. I got a little too specific.
It's funny how many you hear, and you could think, what, because of all the reboots in pop culture recently, that could have been the past 10 years.
Absolutely.
You said Jen the Holograms. Like, wow. We just had a movie of that 2 years ago.
Well, for those who want to hear my last 10, maybe at the end of the show I'll tease those for you, but you have to stick around and listen to the whole thing. Ryan, any of those jump out specifically to you?
I love how Rocky was on there
Yes.
for I think it was 76, 77. Obviously, I'm a huge Rocky fan, and just the fact that, movies and entertainment can have such an impact on your costume. It's not, that's usually all the costumes. It's you're going to be someone from a horror movie or someone from a TV show.
Right.
And it's very rare that you get your typical ghost or skeleton. And if you do get a ghost or skeleton, it's inspired by something from a movie or a TV show.
Totally.
So I love Hiraki, and I just loved all the movie ones. The fact that you could be the shark from Jaws.
I know.
Oh my gosh. See, nowadays that would probably be like making fun of Katy Perry's Super Bowl performance.
Left Shark.
Left Shark.
So right. Yeah, I the Breakfast at Tiffany's Audrey Hepburn kind of stood out for me just because I feel like even now I see that costume so much. The long cigarette holder, the black dress. To me, Audrey Hepburn's look in Breakfast at Tiffany's is one of the most iconic movie looks.
Definitely. Absolutely. Most iconic.
Yeah, definitely. So really, really fun to see. Love the Star Wars stuff. In some ways, it makes history seem long, but in some ways, it makes it seem really short.
A little timeless in that. I mean, I I dressed up as a Jedi plenty of times. I've always wanted to be a stormtrooper, but the costume was so expensive and it was just a lot. But yeah, I mean, some of these are timeless, and some of them you can be every single year. I think nowadays it's become maybe the idea is sort of turned a little bit, and you're trying to make some kind of like relevant what's going on right now, but they might not hold up as well as a lot of these older costumes have.
I love it. Well, that's really great, Ryan. And this makes me want to get to my next segment. We'll keep it quick, but can I hear about 3 Halloween costumes from your past that you feel like really you think of when you think of your Halloween experience?
You absolutely can. Well, first off, I was Dwight from The Office.
Perfect.
For a solid 3 years.
Now, quick question, Ryan.
Yeah.
Would you say that you're like a casual fan of the show The Office on NBC?
No, I am the biggest fan ever, and I went to Scranton when the show was wrapping. I begged my dad to bring me. They were doing a wrap party in Scranton, and I was in the minor league baseball stadium, just loving every second of it and all about that show. That show meant the world to me, developed me as all my comedy and sense of humor right now. But anyway, I love The Office, so I went all out. I got the short sleeve mustard shirt. I got a Dunder Mifflin bag. I got the haircut. I bought Dunder Mifflin paper at a Staples. I did everything. That was one of my most iconic. Just to throw 2 more in there. Another one, this was in high school. I just wanted to go all out. I went as Tom Hanks' character in Castaway.
Oh, did you bring Wilson?
I did bring Wilson. I had a Wilson volleyball with the handprint. I actually played volleyball at the time too, so it was easy to make that.
Were you a hitter, Ryan?
I was a spiker. I was usually a center.
Okay. I played volleyball as well.
Love volleyball so much. We should play sometime. Anyway.
Yes.
But yeah, so I went all. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably my favorite performance in a movie. So I got old shoes, cut out the toes because he does that in the movie. I also got FedEx boxes because he works for FedEx, and I put all my folders and everything that I would usually have in my backpack in these FedEx boxes. So I just brought him around school all day as if I was on the island, and I also had Wilson and a little tarp around my head. Like, I was just going all out. I absolutely love that movie. And the final one, this one definitely doesn't hold up, but I went as Nicki Minaj's Anaconda one year where I had a snake wrapped around my whole body, and then I just stapled hot dog buns all over my clothes. So it was like and it said, "Don't got none unless you got," and I had
buns, hun.
Exactly.
I love it. If I think back to my Halloween costumes, let me see. Well, Power Ranger, of course, was iconic for me. A lot of Harry Potter action for me. I started with just being Harry. I kind of look like Harry Potter a little bit with the glasses on. So, and then I did go as a Jabberwocky one year. Do you know what the Jabberwockies are, Ryan?
No.
You don't?
A Jabberwocky. Should I Google this?
Google Jabberwockies and spell it with a Z, and I'll see if you recognize this photo.
So, okay, interesting word. Where is the Z?
At the very end. Jabberwockies.
Z. Okay. Jabberwocky. Oh, wow. Okay, there we go.
You've never seen these guys before.
Oh, they kind of remind me of the Blue Man Group.
Yeah, they're a Vegas dance crew of whom I was a large fan, and I did go as a Jabberwocky one year.
Nice.
So those 3 stand out to me, but I love Halloween. Typically, I'll kind of go with ironic, last-minute, pop cultural moment costumes. Okay. Like I went as a Chilean miner the year that they were freed from... And so then they were all rescued, so it was a celebratory, but that's kind of the type of costume I like.
Right.
Well, I love it, and at this point, I'm gonna do a little Halloween trivia game.
Let's do it.
So we're gonna make our way out here soon. I do have some Christmas updates later in the show, but we're gonna play a quick game. Then I've got some Christmas movie updates, and finally our holiday hero, and it is Halloween themed this year. So let's play a quick trivia game. Ryan, you're gonna be my audience. I have 3 multiple choice questions for you.
Sounds good.
Okay, we are getting some music pulled up, but in the meantime, I'm going to ask you about Beggars Night in Des Moines, Iowa. So every year in Des Moines, there's this thing called Beggars Night, and Beggars Night is one of the 4 things. Either it's a night that the town rallies to go give supplies to the homeless, aka those who are begging around the city. B, it's a chance where kids, rather than trick-or-treating, go on stage and do little skits and tell jokes, aka begging for their candy. C, is it that everyone dresses up like famous beggars from literature? So think like Dickensian Tiny Tim. Or D, is it where adults beg their children to get home by the curfew? which is 10 p.m.
I have a guess.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that last one.
Okay.
I also don't think it's dressing up as famous beggars from literature. I think it's just a way too niche of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with B.
You are correct, Ryan.
Nice.
In Des Moines, as a chance to de-incentivize vandalism like they used to do in the 20s, Des Moines does this thing called Beggars Night where they get to their community park and kids go on stage and have to, rather than doing treats, they have to do tricks for their treats.
Tricks for their treats.
So telling lame jokes, etc.
Perfect.
Second question.
Yes.
Candy corn, originally called A, chicken feed, B, candy cones, C, witches' hats, or D, October chews.
Ooh. I don't see the witches' hats working.
Okay.
I also, can you repeat what A was again?
A, chicken feed, B, candy cones, C, witches' hats, or D, October chews.
Candy cones doesn't make sense to me either. I'm going to go with October chews.
It's actually chicken feed is the original name of candy corn. So kind of interesting.
Okay, I guess it looks like that.
Finally, world record for the most number of jack-o'-lanterns set. Either A, at one time, in one community park.
Okay.
Either A, 4821, B, 93,461, C, 30,581, or D, 17,489.
Wow, a community park, you said?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go with D. What was that?
17,800. Actually, it was C. 30,581 jack-o'-lanterns. Guinness Book of World Records.
I gotta imagine that smelled pretty bad after they spoiled
all those pumpkins.
That's a lot of pumpkins.
Well, that's a good point. Perfect timing with the music. That was our little Halloween trivia game, so we hope you enjoyed it. But most importantly, Ryan, I've got two updates. One is the Christmas decoration update, and two is our Christmas movie update.
Oh, okay.
I'll start with Christmas decorations.
Let's do it.
So I don't have an explicit Christmas decoration update, but I do have like a holiday weather update.
Oh.
Ryan and I were talking about how at certain times of year you can just start to feel the holidays more. And I was in the Midwest this week, and let me just tell you, Ryan, it was like 68 degrees, sunny blue skies, but orange leaves changing. Just perfect fall weather. So for those of you guys in the Great Lakes region, Northeast, that's my update for you around decorative spirits. I'm sure you're starting to feel that move into the holiday season.
Absolutely.
Leaves are starting to fall. And after the leaves fall, what falls, Ryan?
A big ol'...
Yes, some snow, baby.
baby.
Also, let's turn that music down fast.
Absolutely,
Because
yeah,
YouTube
we don't wanna get that
is
copyright.
vicious.
Here we go.
All right, number two, the Christmas movie update I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, there is very, very serious talks of a How Perfect Is This? Nightmare Before Christmas live action reboot for 2020.
Really?
How do we feel about actors in Nightmare Before Christmas?
Well, first off, and this is going to be the first name that comes to everyone's mind, is Johnny Depp.
Yes.
I think that is, and I mean, Tim Burton, it's a common misnomer. He didn't direct Nightmare on Christmas. He produced it,
That's
and he
true.
had a major hand in it. And with anime movies, obviously, the producer role can vary, but he clearly had a major impact on it. I think Johnny Depp would definitely be approached for that, but the big charm of that film is the stop motion and just the style in which that was done. I don't know if we need that.
Yeah.
Do you think we need it?
I think if it was done with the exact same specificity as the animated one, it could be good. I think that movie saw its medium, which is live action animation, and leaned into it. If they lean into the potential that a live action reboot can give us, it could be good. The analogy I would bring up is I thought that the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was pretty good, because it was so weird.
Right.
And they had little tiny Oompa Loompas running around these giant sets. And if you do the same thing where you lean into the potential that live action can give you, it could be good.
It's a good point. I think it brings up the conversation of if you're going to reboot something,
Why?
why? Do you either go completely in a new direction with it, or do you really just try to do the same thing and really harp on the nostalgia? Because both have worked in the past. And I think what a lot of these live action remakes that we've been getting lately have kind of stumbled with is they won't lean one way or the other. People loved Lion King this year. Personally, I just thought it wasn't different enough. I didn't think they changed enough for that much talent being involved. So I would really like to see them go in a completely different direction with it, or just really lean into maybe the songs a little more. Get an awesome cast. Like Billy Porter's popping into my head as someone who I think would be
love
really
that
great.
pitch, Ryan.
Definitely, he'd be an awesome addition to that cast.
Cool.
So yeah, that's my idea.
Alrighty, well, let us know what you think about the idea of a live-action Nightmare Before Christmas. And, while you're letting us know things, I would also love to hear, I've had better transitions before, I would love to hear what your top 3 Halloween costumes are from your childhood. Let us know down in the comments below. We've had a great engagement. We love reading your comments. It's been super fun. The channel's growing, and it's the spirit of Christmas, guys. A lot is brewing, shall I say, in honor of Halloween under the surface here at the Christmas 24/7. All right, the last thing we're going to end with, as we do every year, is our Holiday Hero segment. And I'm going to do a Halloween-themed Holiday Hero segment.
Every show.
It's this really beautiful article in Reader's Digest. I'm going to keep it fast, but I'd really encourage you to read it. I mean, I'm like getting emotional even looking at these photos, but we're talking about a man named Ryan Weimar. He's 38. He's from Portland, Oregon. And he found out that his first son, Keaton, was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy at 9 years old. And he worried that this kid would be forever defined by his disability. With this form of muscular dystrophy, he's set in a wheelchair, and it takes away his ability to walk and eat and breathe. It's a very, very challenging form of muscular dystrophy. But he knew that he still wanted to preserve the magic of childhood for his son Keaton. So what he did was he actually built this incredibly huge, elaborate pirate ship around his motorized wheelchair for Halloween. He put a treasure chest on it where people could grab candy out of it. It had black sails, a scurvy parrot attached. And Keaton's costume not only made headlines in the local paper, but instantly changed the way people saw him, which I think is pretty cool. So what he says is people saw his son before they saw the disability, which just got him really choked up. And what's pretty cool is he used this to leverage it into sort of a business that features like Halloween rigging and things you can build around motorized wheelchairs. So I'm looking right here at a photo of Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon with giant wings on the side. What else do we see? This is just so fun. I see a blue shell from Mario Kart. Like, how amazing is that? Sort of this, this is so awesome. It's the Cinderella Chariot built around the wheelchair, so she rides in her own wheelchair as Cinderella. I mean, talk about a holiday hero, Ryan.
That is absolutely remarkable.
These are the kinds of stories, I'm loving looking at these photos. These are the kind of stories that really just make your day and can really lift your spirit. And that's what we do here at the Christmas 24/7 here on the 6 months of Christmas.
Love that so much, Jeff. Incredible job.
Thank you. That's all we've got. Ryan, do you think we were Christmassy enough today for our fans?
I think we were Christmassy enough. I think this is definitely a bit of a different episode. Obviously, shout out to Captain Kev, and we're sadly loading up the sleigh without him for today, but he'll be here next time. And the holiday, we're well into October. So we're going to have a great time with Halloween coming up. I'm still brainstorming my costume. I think I'm going to go as a streaming service, like maybe like a Disney Plus, dress up as a mouse with a plus or something.
That's fun.
Yeah, but we'll see.
It's very LA.
Very LA. But I think we did enough Christmas today.
I think so too. And with that, we're going to get out of here, guys. But we just want to, again, remind you of our 2-part mission. It's to extend the spirit of the holiday season beyond just, and let's rally up the sleigh real quick.
It's getting late. And I've got these letters to deliver.
Letters to deliver.
Yes.
And you better be getting home, too. And remember, behave yourselves.
That's right, guys. This is the 6 months of Christmas podcast on the Christmas 24/7. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us a review on iTunes. And remember, we are here to extend the spirit of the season beyond the month of December. And we are here to gear up for that holiday season. I'm literally giddy, Ryan, as we approach Halloween and then Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's all coming up. But make sure you tune in every day. If you want to join us live, do that Mondays at 4 p.m. Pacific on the Christmas 24/7 channel on AfterBuzz TV's YouTube. Check us out or listen to the podcast, and make sure you stay tuned. Till then, y'all, my name is Jeff Graham. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're interested in Dancing with the Stars, I cover that show on our sister channel, AfterBuzz TV Competitions. Ryan, what are you up to?
I am up to, we just wrapped up the Succession finale, and you can catch me on the Watchmen after show. That is this coming Sunday.
Speaking of costumes, I presume we'll see a lot of Watchmen costumes this year.
I really hope so as well. It's definitely a popular franchise, and I really hope the TV show lives up to all of our expectations. So you can watch me there Sunday, 7 p.m. PST at Ryan Nilsson _.
All right, y'all. Until next show, which will be Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific on this channel, do your best to make every day feel like Christmas.
From Chairman Elves, Kevin Undergaro, and Maria Menounos, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Until next time, do your best to make every day Christmas. Ho, 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 ho.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!